So we have a lot of discussion around what are we? What are we trying to be?
Frozen custard and Steakburgers. It's in the name, right?
No, it's not fair. I didn't get to have lunch before this, and now I just want.
Well, at least I don't have any pictures
Right.
that show it.
We'll
like
put some up in post.
through.
We'll have burgers flying through the air.
Welcome to Restaurant 365 presents Behind the Numbers, a podcast where we talk to restaurant owners, operators, chefs, kitchen managers, CFOs, everybody to find out what is the secret sauce that makes every restaurant tick. Before we get started, just a quick reminder to like and subscribe wherever you're tuning in. It not only helps us, drive more traction, gets more people checking us out, but if you leave us a review, it does gets even more folks coming to check out the show, and it helps build out our restaurant community. With that, I'm your host, Rich Sweeney.
And I'm Mark Cohen, and we're here today with Bill Valentas, Chief Financial Officer of Freddy's Frozen Custard and Steakburgers. Freddy's is a fast casual restaurant concept that creates fresh, made-to-order, craveable food served with genuine hospitality in a fun, inclusive environment. Freddy's has become one of the fastest growing franchises in the U.S., growing from a single restaurant in Wichita, Kansas in 2002, and now has more than 550 locations in the U.S. and Canada. Bill has a diverse background with experience in the personal service, hospitality, consumer products, and of course the restaurant industries. As CFO, Bill is focused on Freddy's strategic plan and day-to-day operations of finance, accounting, purchasing, and IT, and growth. Bill, welcome to Behind the Numbers. Let's dig in.
Great to be here.
We're happy to have you here, live at RTF.
Yeah,
It's just a little bit going on,
Yeah.
just a little bit.
Where did everybody go? Everybody's in
We
session.
had a whole crowd behind us.
There
What
were
happened?
people here.
We scared them off.
They're off learning and absorbing and developing their skill set. So we always like to start this with sort of a fundamental question of what do you think is the most important thing leaders like you should be focused on store operations and finance right now? What's top of mind for you?
Communication. It's trying to figure out where we've been, where we're going, and what's working for us and what's not working for us. And, I think the biggest piece of what we have is making sure that teams, we do so many things now cross-functionally. And I think that's the thing that came out of COVID is that you need to have people in different departments doing different things so that we're not all doing the same things. And having that communication to make sure that people are on the same page and just understanding what's working out of that communication. Because sometimes you're running against the wall all the time and it's just something that's not working the way you wanted it to work. And you may need to make a small tweak and get there. But that's a little bit of what we try to focus on is keep making those little tweaks so we can keep growing.
And so when we're talking about communication in an organization of your size, how many locations do you have?
Just over 550.
And how many of those are corporate that you are?
38.
38. And so how many employees are we talking about communicating with?
1,500.
That's a lot.
That's it.
That's it.
Just a couple of people to make sure
And
that
then
you get the
summer it
message
edges
out to
up
everyone.
to 1,800.
Right. So there's some seasonality.
Yep.
So how do you measure that? How do you control that? What is this? Technology solution? Is
Everything
SOPs?
we do
Is managing top down?
Yeah, everything we do is technology.
Okay.
I mean, there is not anything that technology doesn't touch in the business anymore. And if you're running a business that's not technology enabled,
Right.
at least in the restaurant space, it's really hard these days.
Yeah, almost impossible. I mean, trying to stay on top of things with ever-changing market, ever-changing, kind of variables that are happening. Communication amongst your team.
Yep.
You make a change to a recipe, if that doesn't get communicated out, or accurately, then that's going to have such a huge impact on your cost and your bottom line at the end of the day. So just so many pieces that tie into that.
Absolutely.
And so with the franchise groups, though, there's another layer of communication, I would imagine, so that we're making sure everybody's on the same page. How does that get sort of pushed down from the corporate level?
Well, we use a concept called the franchise business coach, so
Okay.
FBC. And that FBC is our main point of contact for that franchisee. And then they have resources behind them. So it's all our teams, our cross-functional teams working to get places. And they're the eyes and ears of that franchisee to let us know what they like, what they don't like. We ask our franchisees for a lot of feedback, and we do a lot of it directly too. So we, myself and our COO, Brian Wise, lead a call every period. That's an EOP call for the owners.
Okay.
So we're trying to give them information at a higher level of where we're going or what we're seeing. And then we have our other departments that are leading different calls for different purposes across that. And so there's always a communication path. And right now we're asking our franchisees, hey, give us feedback. Are we over communicating now? Are we hitting the points right?
Right.
How is it working for you guys? So that we can always make sure we're getting better and we're adjusting to what's the need.
And I'm curious with that feedback loop, because we're seeing a lot of more, we're seeing technology solutions coming out to support that. right? Not just at an ownership level, but at an employee level too, right? Things like Tadler, or giving the employees the ability to give feedback on a daily basis on how the shift was, how their manager was.
Exactly.
I love this. But do you find you get better feedback when it's an anonymous or when they're being upfront and formal with you? I'm curious where the honesty lies.
So I think there's some of our employees that are always honest.
Okay, right.
I think there's others
To a
that
fault.
I think there's others that are sometimes afraid to say something.
Always.
It's trying to make that comfortable spot in between there, that they'll say something that's meaningful and not just be in the moment, that they've really thought about it. And those are some of the best feedback that you can get. So as they thought about it, as they work through it, as they say, here's the problem that I'm encountering, those are the things we love to hear, because that's the things we can really fix, because there's details behind it. And so, whenever a guest calls in with a complaint, we're always trying to figure out the details. It's the same thing with an employee, that we need more details to understand how it's affecting, and then we can say, okay, from there, what does that look like? What else can we do? Because even in our stores, where we do a lot of the testing in everything we do, that then gets rolled out to franchisees, we really rely on the communication of our team, not just the general manager, but the team members who are doing those tasks as we're testing them, to be able to have that feedback.
Right, because if we can get the buy-in of the operators at the corporate level, it's a pretty fair bet we're going to get it at the franchisee level. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And then we'll roll it out to a franchise group and let them experience it, how we were doing it, and we make modifications from that as well, because they see it in a little bit different way, and we kind of just keep rolling that out until we're like, okay, we got it all good. If we need somebody to speak on operations point, we say, hey, well, talk to this franchisee, because they're the one that said it's okay.
Now, have you ever run into the iteration version, like, you're kind of rolling it out little by little, getting that feedback, modifying? Have you ever seen it where it's gone almost full circle, where you've gone through everybody's feedback and it almost takes you back to where you started? Or do you think you see enough little changes and tweaks that what you end up with seems significantly different than where you guys started?
That's a good question, because we saw the loop full circle in the beginning. And I think that was a little what I was saying from stage earlier, was that you get in this cycle of you just keep doing, and when not everybody's bought in, they always push it back, because whenever they want to push back, it's the ability to say, well, I don't know, I have some questions, let me follow up with you, and then it never comes back around, but you keep moving and you just keep circling. But what we saw is that as we got our ops teams involved in the process and got them bought into what they wanted to do and how they wanted to do it, it's really helped to break that off and make small iterative changes that are helping us get better.
I think from the buy-in perspective too, it's great that you guys are taking that feedback from your team, from the franchisees, but then I think from the people out in the field, it's like you have that feeling like you're making an impact on something, and that when you see it coming out, if you gave some feedback to say, I think this is a bottleneck, that when you see it actually fully rolled out and it's been resolved, it's like, oh, I got to have a say in that. It's almost like to take on a little bit more ownership of the process.
Absolutely. And I think with AI coming up and what AI could do for us, that could create a little bit more of that bottleneck. But hopefully there's a release for the bottleneck with AI too. Right. So I think there's going to be a lot of things that spin around there that people are going to challenge.
But I also love something you talked about earlier, was the fact that you're very much about using the tool as it was intended, right? Like, what we don't want to see is people trying to you can bend it, but don't break it, right? And that's critical with technology. And change is hard. Change management is hard, especially for restaurant folks. It's just, we're stubborn people. It's just who we are.
What? Never.
So really, really, we talk about this a lot, but it's like you're enforcing not just here's what you're going to do, but here's the why behind you doing it, and here's why this is the tool we selected to work for you.
Yeah, no, and it's a little bit of we're trying to fail before you fail, right? So if we're gonna do something, let us try it, and if it fails, it's on us,
right?
But if we find something that works and that really makes our teams more efficient, then why not run that all the way down? And that in that same way, we can help those teams kind of understand why we're doing it. And once they understand why we're doing it, they're like, okay, that makes sense. I mean, I get what you're doing. It's just not making change for the sake of change is the other thing, right? That it's, if the system's working, then remember to ask that question. What was intended to do here? Because I think in the beginning when we implemented, we forgot that saying. We were just like, we want to fit it into our process. And our process every year has to tweak just a little bit.
Of course.
And so if you don't change it, you're going to be left in
And
the Stone Age.
you know, we change our software from time to time as well.
Yep.
Whether
Sometimes
you
I
want
like
us to
it,
or not.
Sometimes I like it, and sometimes I
that,
don't.
That changes in post. But you start to build momentum. The more you're rolling out these successful solutions to your teams, the more momentum you gain, the more trust you gain, and just makes that process easier. Versus, changing the workflow, changing the SOP on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And you're just going to lose buy-in immediately. We see that a lot, especially when there's turnover at an executive level in these restaurant groups. Somebody wants to come in and strip out the old and replace it with the new, and that's always a hard conversation to have because, we're personally vested in them keeping our software, but I'm more concerned about the day-to-day operations and how that's going to disrupt, an organization.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I think everybody's comfortable with what they're comfortable with.
Yeah.
And so, that's part of the piece of how can you use what people have to be creative in that and not just put your own playbook in, because there's so many different things you have to do, right?
Right.
And doing an implementation is not an easy thing.
Well, you guys make it a little bit easier.
Agreed. But if you're trying to get to a place where you're trying to make impactful change in a new job, it's probably not those places to start. There's probably other things.
Yes.
But a lot of leaders go to places they feel comfortable first. It gets them a running start.
Right.
And so, I think I look at it the other way is that what does the organization really need? And then put those things in the bucket of where do we have to go? And what should be first versus what's comfortable for me to do first.
Right.
Maybe I just like to be uncomfortable.
Maybe.
Comfortable with being uncomfortable.
I think that helps think about the process better and then take constructive criticism when it doesn't go the way you think it's going to go.
Right.
Because most of the time that's on you, and then you have to figure out, okay, where did I?
And everybody's looking at you.
Where did I pass on that?
Yep. That's a great point. So when it comes to implementing the R365 solution with your franchisees, what do you? I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that probably the hardest thing to get them to understand would be an AVT report. Is that something that not a lot of new restaurant operators have seen before? Or what do you feel? Is that sort of the biggest hurdle for them to clear?
I would agree, but I think it's the steps that lead up to the AVT.
Okay.
So
I know you want to call it ATV.
I know.
I do it all the time.
That's why I had to slow down. So you got me. My brain
And
is
then wait,
functioning.
this is the part where we have to insert the graphic underneath that says
Sunday.
Well, we have that one, but then next to it is the AVT equals actual versus theoretical.
Correct.
Because we love a good three-letter acronym, and sometimes we forget whoever's listening.
We
But
might use too many acronyms. on
yeah,
this show.
but I mean, I almost said ATV now too.
The actual versus theoretical.
Actual versus theoretical report. There we go.
Yeah, it's the stuff that leads up to that. So the items, the measurements. So if they're trying to, so our process for people that aren't in the brand repository is to when we have an LTO, so limited time offer.
Thank you.
I didn't screw that one up. It really gives them the recipe so we dump it out of our recipe book inside of Restaurant 365 in the Excel format, which is great. We send it to them and we let them input it. Mm-hmm. And sometimes when they input it, they won't have one of the unit measures because they missed it.
Oh, okay.
And so when they try to go create that, that's a little bit of trying to understand
how the sausage is made.
It's the purchase unit measure versus the inventory unit measure. Like, which one do I use? How do I use it? So that's the more complicated piece of it all, is that I think they get bogged down there because they want to be able to put whatever they want to put in and just have it calculate to what it should be.
Just have it work.
And it's just
the
not
easy button.
that,
right.
Yeah, it's just not that easy. But it's the pieces before that. I think if they knew that better or got into our brand repository, it would make that process a little bit smoother for them.
Well, yeah, you're taking a lot of that lift off of them. And
Right.
So for everybody that's listening, what we're talking about here is, Freddy's has a model where they're able at a corporate level to sort of push down to all their franchisees and help them manage their recipes and their inventory and their purchase items. So even if they're in their own database, everybody's got consistency across the board.
Exactly.
So everybody's AVT sort of looks the same for them.
Yeah, just making sure, especially too, new menu items, changes, LTOs, things like that, being able to have that information get pushed down so that it doesn't fall on the franchisees to have to manage it themselves. I think it's something great that you guys have in place. So many franchisees, when we talk to them, they're just like, all right, I have so many things in the air. How do I keep track of it all? And then when we rolled this out, it was like, oh, this is like, you guys do that for me? It's like, yeah, we'll help you with that. Don't worry about it. Like one less thing to be on their plate so that they can focus on the business and the operation itself.
Yeah, and the other side of that is I was just talking to another group that uses the platform that they're all on the same platform.
They're all, yes.
And so they do all that stuff in theirs and it's automatic to the franchisees. And I think about that and I'm like, that sounds cool. But we're getting so many franchisees now from other concepts that everybody's kind of blending things that we've always worked under the idea that we want to give flexibility to franchisees to be able to do what they need to do. But we want to help them get to a place quickly, right? And so it's like, okay, where do you find that balance of what do you need to do versus what do you have to do, and how do you as a franchisor, how do you make them do it? Because at the end of the day, it's their choice. So we want to just give them good advice.
And that's all right, because we are seeing these franchise groups now go out and buy a couple of different concepts, right? They want to diversify their portfolios, and it's great that you give them that flexibility. It's like, hey, look, we're going to set up your Freddy's portion of the database, and then hopefully they learn some valuable lessons there. And
because I couldn't imagine trying to manage that on the other side, that I got to go into 3 different accounting systems.
No way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be tough.
That's what people coming from QuickBooks are. They're coming with us 8 different QuickBooks files, right?
Yeah.
But the other thing I love about this too is it really puts, one of the things I feel like we always forget to think about when we're implementing a solution is like the future. Like we're looking at now, we're looking at how to fix where we're coming from, but I feel like a lot of the times we don't think about where we're going. And even if you don't think, like you started with 11 stores, now you're at 38. And maybe that was the plan from day one, but even if you're a single franchisee, like plan for 50 stores. You never know.
Right.
Like do the work now so that whatever that solution is you're implementing, in this case Restaurant 365, like future-proof it so it's scalable. Because if you get to 38 stores and you don't do that, it's not a fun process.
No, and I think we started the other way, is that we're saying, franchisees, you get 1 or 2 stores, do what you're doing. You don't have to roll on Restaurant 365 because it's going to take you a long time to learn what you're doing. Mm-hmm. But then we started realizing that there's so many key aspects of the software that makes the job easier as they go to the second store.
For those single ownership.
And so feel the pain in the beginning, but it's that balance of, do I want to feel the pain in the beginning versus opening my first store? Like what pain do I want to feel?
What hill do I want to die on today?
I think what we realize is that the pain is good up front, because if you can get it all set up, then your second one is a breeze.
Oh yes,
because it's all ready to go and you're just going. So, it's a different model, but luckily in our concept we don't have very many single owners. We have a lot of multi-groups, so it makes it easier from that standpoint because everybody's going to do a second one. Right. And we've been lucky enough that the ones that have signed 1 units have actually called quickly to buy the second or the third.
Pretty good ROI,
it's like,
that's awesome.
We like that.
Yeah.
They get one and then they get hooked and they come back looking for more. I see your model. I see how you're doing it.
It's not a pyramid scheme.
No.
It's very different. It's a different model.
There's no knives involved.
No. So one of the things I want to talk about right now in this, in specifically in the QSR space, is there's a couple of things I feel like that are knocking at your door or threatening. One is the idea of the snack now being a drink. I think we've talked about this, right? The Starbucks effect or whatever you want to call it. Like, are you feeling that a little bit? Are you feeling pressure from some of these beverage chains that are popping up? People are replacing a steak burger with a Frappuccino now.
Yeah. I think that everybody's worried about that, right? Because I think that you only have so much of a share of wallet, and the share of wallet is shrinking right now. And so, that's a problem for all of us. Even those ones that are winning on today on the drink side, they're down from where they were.
Yeah.
Right.
And so
the honeymoon's over.
Yeah. And so it's trying to figure out how you can be relevant to that occasion with a guest when they want to be a guest. And that's the challenge I think everybody has, is how do I get a guest to come in again or more often, but not pressure them to do so. Like, you want to be a place where they always want to go and you're ready for them. I think that comes a little bit with hospitality as well, that you're not pushy about what you're doing. But it's difficult. it's a difficult time, especially when you see the market keeps going up and up, and you're seeing that guests are pulling back more and more.
Casual dining seems untouchable right now, though. Casual dining seems to be killing it.
They are, but they're spending a bunch of money
right.
To do so. And so what does that look like in the future?
Yeah.
It's hard to be in that discount game because you always are resetting the value of your product.
Yeah.
And so it'll be interesting to see how they work themselves from this point to the next point. I mean, they've done a fantastic job of staying with what they did a couple years ago and keep pushing it until it started working, which is great, right? And that's what you hope for. And now they have a transformational moment for them that it could help push them. Or they could be left behind because they can't get out of that way, right?
Yeah,
and so
it's that what do we used to call it? The Groupon effect, right?
It's that vicious cycle of just discounting and then trying to find a way. You're just devaluing your own product over and over and over again.
Yeah. And it's so hard because the biggest metric in restaurants is same store sales.
Yeah.
And
that's all you have to go by.
Is that really a good metric? Because it's only showing your top line.
Right.
Where what matters is your bottom line.
And average spend and the number of KPIs we could be tracking there. Now, in terms of that beverage space, are you guys doing anything internally to come up with some different options?
We're working on some different things. We've been trying to move faster on the beverage side, but it's something that we're trying to see what our guest wants.
Okay.
And before we just throw things out there we think are worthwhile, but it's got to be meaningful. And so we're trying some interesting things. We just tasted some things last week that were great using Custard. That was a little dirty soda that's using Custard.
Oh, I like
mix.
it.
Yeah, I'm always down for a dirty soda.
It's like our special creamer mix. So it's interesting where it's going. So we'll be having some more drinks, and we've been thinking about the snack category a lot.
Okay.
So how do you get more smaller portions, and what does that look like? What's fun for kids because we're family oriented. So what can we do from that side? There's a lot of things that are bubbling up. It's just making sure you're thinking about how it's going to affect long term. But we have the option to roll things out in LTOs. And so for the limited time offers, we can test it and see how guests react. And if guests don't like it, they don't like it.
And you got data to back it up.
That's right.
At that point, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned like obviously the family version of things, and you mentioned like smaller portions for things. One thing that's kind of come up a lot for people, especially restaurants now, is like GLP-1s, and it's like the GLP-1 effect. Is that something, I mean, like, are there smaller portions driving decisions like that? Or do you think it's more so you're just trying to have more of that snack factor that maybe somebody who's taking that medication wants to be able to kind of like, come in and be that guest, and they don't want a full meal, they want just something smaller? I guess, where do you see that driving for you guys?
That's a good question. I think there's been a lot more talk around that. And there's been more data now that's been shared, which makes me feel better, because when somebody's saying GLP-1s are driving something, it's kind of like back in the day when delivery was saying, well, we increase your sales no matter what. Well, we're not going to show you anything, and you just have to trust us. And at the end of the day,
give us 25%.
Right. Yeah. At the end of the day, it was right. They have a different guest. That's not our guest. But I think it really, based on the data I've seen, is split out between the low-end guest and the high-end guest. And there's a very different sentiment of what's happening because of the price of GLP-1s. And I think that once we see that becoming more mass, where it's a pill or the price goes down, or if the insurance companies decide to start covering it more, because it's really preventing other things and it's saving them dollars, that's where it's going to get more dynamic of, okay, what's that really going to do to you guys? But so I think smaller portion size, especially in the market we're in today, when you get to a price point that everybody's gotten to with price because of where commodity costs are, you have to start re-engineering your product.
You have to.
And so what does that look like?
Yeah.
And so I think smaller portions are the ultimate thing that comes out of that. Now, it's how do you stay true to what you are is the hard thing of that. And so we have a lot of discussion around what are we? What are we trying to be?
Frozen custard and Steakburgers. It's
Yeah.
in the name, right? Like,
Let's go. That's as fattening as we can get, right?
This is not fair. I didn't get to have lunch before this, and now I just want.
Well, at least I don't have any pictures behind
Right,
me
right.
that show it.
We'll
like
put
a
some up
burger
in post.
floats
We'll
through.
have burgers flying
I
through
know.
the air.
I thought we were doing like
Yeah.
you're just gonna like show up
Yeah.
and be delivered
Yeah.
in front of us.
I forgot.
Not you. No.
But
Somebody
yeah,
yells at it.
you're not right. Like, I don't think the industry can support a $15 fat, quick service burger. I just
Agreed.
don't think people are going to go for it.
No, and I mean, the interesting point is we're at the highest beef prices we've had in a long time, right? And the herd isn't coming back as fast because demand has stayed high, and so it's, you have all these other challenges that you're trying to work through that are now affecting other industries, and that's what makes it fun. I mean, I think there's so many things that go into serving a guest a burger that you lose sight of all the little things that have to go right for it to be the exact perfect experience. And so we focus on, can we give great hospitality, and then we'll fit with the other stuff, figure itself out.
And that guest feedback loop piece, is that through, do you get like a loyalty app, a mobile app? You guys are checking online reviews, sort of all of it?
So we do all of it.
All of it, okay.
Yeah. And we have a guest feedback tool that we use that helps us understand our guest perception even more. We roll that into our BI tool that we use to be able to really give KPIs around each entity or each store, so that we know kind of, okay, how are we trending based on everything else, and are
based
your operations
and against each other, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so voice of the guest is a big part of what that calculation does for us.
And unlike employee feedback, this feedback is all anonymous, so
Yes.
no holds barred, right?
No, right.
They are brutally honest whether you
Yeah.
want them to be or not.
Yes, and when they didn't have a good experience, you get you get the most honest responses at the time. We get a lot of guests that give us good feedback.
That's awesome.
But the good doesn't help us as much.
But it's
as-
nice to hear.
It is nice to hear. It makes you feel like you're doing
Yes.
something right.
Right.
And it is nice. But the constructive criticism back from guests is what makes us better. Because not every time, but the important thing is that you have to make a change so that when that guest goes back in, they don't
see
have
it,
the same
right.
experience, or you're going to lose that guest. So they give you a chance to fix your issue. We need to jump in and fix the issue.
And pivot quickly, right?
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
times, especially if you start to see those trends. It's really interesting because it's contagious. I've been using that word a lot today.
Yes.
You start to see it spread really quickly.
Agree.
Whether it's one store or one area, or it's,
Agree. And if you settle for, oh, that's okay, we'll get past that
No.
one and get to the next one, I think you set a bad precedent for your brand. That our
Absolutely.
culture is take care of the guests.
Absolutely.
And if we're not going to get there, then what are we in business
what are you
for?
doing?
Yeah,
And if it's not craveable, they're not going to come back.
No.
agree.
So regardless of rising commodity prices and the people getting a frappuccino for lunch, you guys are in a pretty heavy growth mindset right now. You're growing.
We are.
Yeah.
And we're looking at operation, ways to streamline the way we do things too. And so that growth, along with the streamlining how we're doing it, with the different technologies we're using, is helping us.
It increases that scalability, right? Makes that
It does.
Yeah.
It makes it a little bit more predictable to what's going to happen, but it's still, you still have to know your area, and you still have to know. We tell our operators, you still have to be in the store. You have to understand what the feeling in that store is like. That what is it a fun store, or is it a dying store?
Well,
Like,
and as a guest, the minute you walk in.
Yeah.
Like you can feel that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. When you walk into the place and you're like, oh, this doesn't
This-
feel like
nobody's happy here.
You're like, that's the moment you walk in. You kind
This
of
is
look
not a
around.
happy
And you're
place.
like, it's not passing the vibe check, and
Yeah.
you kind of just slowly back out.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
I don't know if I want to even order because it doesn't feel right.
agree.
And we did look we're in San Diego. We did look for a Freddy's. We were going to go get some.
We
but
did. Apparently,
it was-
though,
it was a little outside the
the
radius.
custard was going to be melted by the time
Yes.
it got here. And while I would have happily drank an entire glass of that, we said no.
Yeah.
So we're just going to do a field trip after this.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, field trip works.
So we always like to sort of end with a hot take on the industry, something you love, something you hate about what you're seeing out in the world of restaurants these days.
So I'll start with what I hate,
Okay.
and hate's a strong word.
It is. Sorry.
But I just love that you're like, I'm going to start
A trend
with that.
you'd like to see go away.
I want delivery companies to be more transparent.
Okay.
I think that the idea of double dipping from both sides of the equation is is not good. And I think they can be clearer on what they want. They can either take it from one side or the other. And I think all restaurant companies would look at that and say, okay, that makes more sense to me.
Right.
I think that model has to change a little bit.
I want them to do the same for concert tickets as well. That is a same thing, right?
It is. It is
keep
the same
reselling,
thing.
keep service charging, keep reselling. It's that same model.
And at some point, you're gonna piss so many people off that it's going to be hard to justify.
It's already
but I
unaffordable.
think a lot of people don't understand how it all works either. And so that's the piece. And if it was just more clear, I think that would make things so much better, at least for me. So if it was just me worried about it, then
I think for most people, it's like it's that thing of like trying to figure it out, and then you're looking at it and like, well, where did this fee come from? And then you're like looking at the receipt, like, but I thought I have a membership that I pay this company for, so I don't get the fee. But then there's a different fee, and then there's the fee for the fee. Yeah, it just keeps stacking on and on. Like I said, by the time you're done looking at it, it's like trying to read old school stereo instructions, and you're like, this doesn't make sense. Just give me my burger and my custard.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, and the thing that I like the most, I think it's the restaurant industry is always evolving. Unfortunate that some mom and pops, have to close down from that because some of the better restaurants are mom and pops.
Yes, they are.
They've started there, right? And but the evolution of tech in small restaurants always makes it hard.
Yeah, it's probably the last thing they think about spending money on, and
Right.
it should be one of the first. In order to keep an eye on that bottom line.
Yeah, and so if the idea of hanging out to some of those mom and pops and seeing what they bring, because they have a lot of good ideas. It's more about the food and not about the process.
Right.
It's great to see, but that reinvigorates you into, okay, and when you're on a big scale, how do you make it like a mom and pop? And how do you focus
Get
on
that
how
feeling.
do you keep improving and not just, we had a great year last year, let's just rest on that.
No.
Let's just kind of coast. It's always changing and always, there's always a challenge. And so that's what makes it a lot of fun to work in restaurant business.
Love that.
Yeah,
Well,
that's great.
Let's close on that. Bill, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
This was awesome. You can find Bill on LinkedIn and Freddy's through their websites. Easy enough, freddys.com. And, of course, all over social media.
And of course, thank you for joining us. Remember, we hope you have a great day, shift, week, month, all of it, wherever you're at. And if you got time to lean, you've got time to listen while you clean. So make sure you're liking and subscribing wherever you check out podcasts, whether that's on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We're all over the place. And you can follow us on social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. So come check it out. And if all else fails, come visit us at restaurant365.com. Bill, thanks so much. This was great.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
From San Diego, we're out.